Hello everyone and welcome to the video. I will be covering quarterbacks for the Week 1 Draftkings NFL Main slate. The wait is almost over. I'm excited that football is back in our lives. So I'll be doing quarterbacks on Wednesdays, running backs tomorrow on Thursday, wide receivers on Friday, and tight ends and defense on Saturday. I'm going to try to stick to that schedule throughout the season. So let's get into the position, shall we? We start off with Patrick Mahomes at 7.2K. He's the most expensive option by a good margin. He does draw a tough matchup against the Jags. They are a pretty stout defense, but he showed last year just how good he is. The guy was matchup proof last season, and Vegas seems to agree. They have the Chiefs have the highest implied total on the slate, even though they're playing on the road. And Vegas also sees this as a competitive game. I think right now the Chiefs are, last I looked, 3.5-point favorites. So we're not worrying about a negative game script here where they're going to start, running the ball a ton. So I like Mahomes, but on a slate where it feels like a lot of guys are underpriced, he's best used for GPPs only. I don't see him as an optimal cash game play due to his price. So again, yes for tournaments, but not for cash games. Next up for me is Jameis Winston at 6.6K. This game against the 49ers does have the potential to shoot out. The over-under in this game is around 50 points right now. It's a very tight spread, I think 1 point. This entire offseason, we keep hearing about breakout seasons for Godwin and Howard to help out Mike Evans, who's already an established excellent receiver. New coach Bruce Arians should be able to utilize these guys to their full potential. Winston is definitely going to be very popular and for good reason. I'm also high on him, and I think you can consider him in cash depending on what kind of build you're going for. Next up, Cam Newton, 6.5K. He was clearly playing through an injury towards the end of last year. He's had off-season surgery to get that shoulder back up to strength. This is another game with a high total, right around 50 points, I think, which is among the highest in the entire slate. Tight spread. It's another potential shootout, so you're going to want some exposure to Cam in GPPs. Now, you can't play everybody in the DK player pool. So you're going to have to make some tough decisions and take a stand on a few players. So if I were mass multi-entering tournaments, and I guess I should make it clear that I'm not that type of player, but if I were, I would fade the next two guys. Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson would not make the cut. Both guys are on the negative end of their projected game scripts. And Wilson right now is dealing with injuries to his wide receivers, and Russell Wilson. Sorry, let me start over there. Russell Wilson right now is dealing with some injuries to his wide receivers, and Baker is going up against the Titans, who were the number 6 passing defense last year. And for those reasons, I would fade those guys. Let's move on now to Jared Goff at 6.2K. I mentioned earlier with Cam that this should be a high-scoring environment with a tight spread. There was a strong correlation in production last year when Cooper Kupp was playing versus when he was injured. With Kupp healthy and playing again, I'm expecting to see more of the good Goff than the bad Goff, so I like him for GPPs. Matt Ryan is coming off another great year, but he does draw a tough matchup against the Vikings. They were 3rd in the league against the pass last year. I'm not going to tell you to fade him because this is another high-total game, but you're going to have to make your own decision on what to do with Matty Ice. Lamar Jackson is an exciting player, just oozing with upside week to week. Even though this game has a low total and there is some blowout risk with the Dolphins in tank mode, Jackson is still worth rostering in tournaments due to his rushing ability. Let's see. Phil Rivers, someone I'm going to have to take a pass on. I do like multiple position players for the Chargers this week, but Rivers himself, I just can't seem to talk myself into. He should be on the negative end of a game script, and I think there are better options priced below him, so he's a fade for me. Dak Prescott, also 5.9K. Interesting against the Giants. The offense improved significantly last year when they acquired Amari Cooper, but we still don't know how many touches Ezekiel Elliott is going to get now that he's signed a new contract. And that, to me, is the X factor in how to treat Dak this week. With just a so-so over-under in this game and the uncertainty of how I think the play calling in this game is going to go, he's a boom or bust option in GPPs. I could take him or leave him. Jimmy Garoppolo, 5.8K is very intriguing for tournaments. When I talked about Winston, I said this game could shoot out. Tampa Bay's pass defense last year was very bad. We'll see what kind of adjustments they can make this year. And Jimmy didn't show a ton last year when he was healthy, and he doesn't have a ton of weapons outside of Kittle, but I think he's worth at least a few shares in a GPP. Now we get to Carson Wentz at 5.7K. I think he might end up being the chalk at the position. The Eagles have a healthy team total. They have arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. They added Deshaun Jackson to go along with Jeffrey and Ertz. The Eagles should have a pass-heavy attack against the suspect Washington secondary. Sure, there's some game script concerns, but he might have already done all of his damage before it even gets to that point. He might be the guy I end up using in cash. I'm not sure just yet because right below him, for 100 less, is the number 1 overall draft pick, the rookie with a ton of hype behind him, Kyler Murray. Sure, it's his first NFL game, and yes, the Lions defense isn't a terrible unit, so there's some risk, but the upside is undeniable. I was a believer in him coming out of the draft. I think Kingsbury and his high-octane style of offense will translate well here, and I'm not the only person to think that. I think he's going to be pretty popular, carry high ownership in both cash and GPPs. I know he and Josh Allen are the same price, and Allen did very well down the stretch. But for week 1, at least I think Murray's in the better spot. Then we have Kirk Cousins, 5.5K, going up against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons should be better on defense this year since they are healthy again, but how much better is the question. There are some concerns with Cousins. Bad offensive line, and schematically, it would appear that the team wants to have a more run-heavy approach this season. Nonetheless, he does come pretty cheap. He's playing at home, high game total, so I think he's viable for GPPs. And then the last guy that I'm going to mention in this video is priced all the way down at 4.4K. You guessed it, that's Jacoby Brissett going against the Chargers. This is a result of Andrew Luck's shocking retirement. Brissett should not be 4.4K, but he's also not that good in my opinion, and the Chargers are a good defense. But because of the price, he doesn't have to do very much to return value. I think the Colts will be playing from behind, and he's going to have to, pass the ball in garbage time to rack up some points. So I think he's definitely fine in tournaments, and depending on your risk tolerance, you might be able to get away with him in cash. All right, so that will do it for this week's quarterbacks. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do like it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter. My handle is clutch_DFS. Hit me up on there, and I'll answer any questions you might have. I'll be back tomorrow for running backs, and thanks for watching.